Whereas a BLE system, my phone will interact with a BLE system.
One of the benefits of BLE is that you can use your phone as well as, the actual system.
This is the Automatic Identification Teachers Institute Virtual Edition, brought to you by the Material Handling Education Foundation, AIM, and the AIDC 100.
My name is Jeffrey Dungan, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Really Active, which is a company that does creates location-aware spaces using radio frequency technologies. And my background is as a computer engineer, and I've been in the real-time location systems and RFID space since 2004.
I'm Steve Halliday. I am an independent consultant in AIDC.
Can you go through what the predominant RFID technologies currently are and where they'd be used and where BLE might fit into that overall spectrum, for lack of a better term?
So there are quite a number of RFID technologies, and it's confusing because a lot of people just say RFID and they mean a specific thing, and you have to then ask them, well, which RFID are we talking about? The two main branches, you have passive and active. Active means you have some kind of an energy source, a battery, and then the devices can spontaneously transmit. So Bluetooth Low Energy fits into that category, and that's what we're very familiar with. Then you have passive on the other side, where the energy that a tag, an identifiable thing or device, will use actually comes from a reader. It actually comes from the infrastructure. So energy is beamed into the space, and then it's reflected back. So that's the big split at first. If we start with active, this is where Bluetooth Low Energy in the last, I'd say 7 years, really established itself as the de facto standard because it's everywhere. It uses a frequency that works everywhere in the world, or that's accepted everywhere in the world. And the price of parts has shot down enormously, with the slight exception of now with the pandemic. Bluetooth has become very high in demand, and it's not a fun time to be sourcing Bluetooth parts, but it's definitely an interesting time to be a Bluetooth manufacturer. So that's on the active side. Then you have things like what we developed. You have proprietary active RFID. There's lots of systems, lots of companies have developed this, and it's quite accessible. Those could be good for when you have you don't want anyone else to snoop or know what you're doing. Then there's obviously a higher cost because it's unique. And then in that you can argue things like Wi-Fi are inadvertently active RFID. There's other technologies like Zigbee and many that you may have heard of. Most of them, though, are focused more on connectivity than actual discoverability. So really, in active RFID, Bluetooth Low Energy is really the one that's established itself, and then there's a bunch of others. On the passive side, in 2014, when the RAIN Alliance was created, this really brought together this notion of long-range passive RFID, which would be the passive equivalent, let's say, to Bluetooth Low Energy in terms of similar range, similar ways of covering a space with infrastructure. Just the economics work out differently, as I mentioned before. And that one is also the de facto standard, I think, for long-range passive RFID. And then you can dig into lots of other frequencies. So you have lower frequencies that work for, let's say, the little NFC reader that you may have, or similar technologies. All of this falls into RFID. But generally, most of the other technologies would be, they're called contactless, but you have to be quite close to have a read, for instance.
Do you see Bluetooth Low Energy taking off as a replacement for the traditional active RFID solutions of WareNet or RF Code, the Cisco-based Wi-Fi systems?
There has been quite a bit of adoption of BLE solutions. There's one solution that I'm aware of that, you stick a receiver into an ordinary light socket and, into a wall socket, and you put a tag on your asset, and if you have enough of these receivers around, you can set up a network, and you can begin to track the location of your items. I think one of the benefits of BLE is that you can use your phone as well as the actual system, which you can't do with conventional active RFID solutions.
Why would a company use BLE over RAIN RFID as an example?
So a company might use Bluetooth over RAIN RFID based on how many items or things or people they have to track and how much surface area they need to track that over. So where passive RFID, so RAIN RFID, makes really good sense economically is when you have a relatively large number of things that you want to identify, track, count, and over a comparatively small surface area. The infrastructure for RAIN RFID costs a little bit more, but the per item price is just unbeatable compared to, let's say, Bluetooth. Where Bluetooth often makes, Bluetooth Low Energy makes more sense is when you have a relatively small number of things that you want to track compared to the area that you want to track it over. And that's where the economics really play in its favor. You can get some beacons for, sorry. So you can get some beacons for a few dollars and put those on people and assets. And the real difference is the readers are super inexpensive. Your telephone is a Bluetooth Low Energy reader, and you have devices that cost in the tens of dollars rather than in the hundreds or thousands of dollars.
All right, so why are you seeing companies use BLE specifically?
So we'll see companies use BLE specifically because they have some familiarity with it, or it's very easy to mock something up or test something. Because Bluetooth Low Energy is already in your mobile phone. It's on pretty much all modern laptops. So it's relatively accessible for someone to quickly prototype and mock something up, and also to have an understanding of how it works. The legacy of Bluetooth being around for over 25 years now means that people are familiar with the brand and the name in their own consumer use. And we've seen, at least from our perspective, a lot of people that will boldly look on Google and find some companies that make Bluetooth gateways. They'll buy a couple beacons. They can buy a kit full of stuff if they really want to experiment for a few $100s. And sometimes they'll just mock up a prototype or whatever that they're trying to do, which is a little bit more difficult to do with RAIN RFID still.
And so you sort of touching in on this, but what size companies are investigating versus actually implementing BLE solutions?
So we've seen all kinds of sizes of companies. So I guess the way you would look at the companies that are using BLE is because it's an accessible technology, it's really barring no one from at least trying or implementing Bluetooth. And we've seen some very successful implementations with tiny companies. We're talking handful of employees, like less than 10 employees, that can automate or solve some problem on their own. And then we've worked with very big companies where we've done some deployments in U.S. healthcare, U.S. military, et cetera. Really big organizations and groups that find the technology and the applications very valid and applicable to them too.
And what sort of industries are you guys at Really Active specifically going after versus what industries are using BLE in general?
So with Really Active, the approach we've taken to Bluetooth, real-time location systems, and RFID is trying to make it as accessible as possible to anyone. So that means there's two things. It's trying to use things that you can procure off the shelf, so nothing too fancy, not going overboard on the technology itself, and at the same time then trying to use web standard APIs, or to make it that the way you can build applications or do things, it feels familiar like what web developers or people that are familiar with, let's say, JavaScript would be able to do. So how do you make it as accessible as possible? You say, I have a very simple problem. I just need to know how many cars are in my garage, right? And it sounds very simple, but then when you actually start looking for solutions, you find that no one's going to make a exact solution for what you need. You'll probably have to put some pieces together. And then we're trying to be that glue that makes it easy to do just that if you're willing to put in a little bit of time and a little bit of energy. So that's more on the accessible side for, let's say, people who have a familiarity with like a developer background, et cetera, and are like tinkering. right? Or like yourself, Kevin, so that are willing to put the time in, even if it turns into a few, half-day sessions or a couple of weeks, etc. And then you have the other extreme, which is very big companies that have seen a successful case study of doing, let's say, real-time location across a hospital or throughout an office space, or doing occupancy analytics. So just counting how many smartphones are in a space approximately. And they'll stumble upon that, and they may call us up and say, hey, I saw what this other company did. Can I do the same thing? And then you can take a solution that exists already at least 80% and then tweak that final bit, or coach them to take it to the next level.
Will BLE kill RFID, passive RFID?
So no, BLE will not kill passive RFID. The purpose, the model, the economics, everything of it, nothing. It's a very unlikely scenario. You may argue that if energy harvesting technologies really do work well, so you can look at a company like Wiliot, there's others that have tried it as well, just harvesting the ambient 2.4 gigahertz energy in a space, which is a lot of things. There's a lot of things like your microwave and Wi-Fi and all that are creating a lot of ambient noise and energy that can be harvested for to make an active tag like a Bluetooth tag actually act somewhat like a passive tag, in the sense of it harvests its own energy, doesn't require its own energy. It's an unlikely scenario because you do appreciate very much some of the characteristics of passive RFID, which are you can very precisely beam your signal. So if you need to read people who are only going through a specific gate, but not from a neighboring gate. So the aspect of location is often very important there. So I don't think Bluetooth will kill passive. You can do some really cute things with passive for precise location. And then say it again, the economics, I don't see a Bluetooth tag ever approaching anything closer than 1 order of magnitude price difference from passive RFID.
So, and that all makes sense, and I would have been shocked if you said anything other than that. A little bit more of an apples to apples comparison though. Is BLE going to kill some of the proprietary traditional, the WareNets, the RF codes of the world that are using proprietary active solutions and not basing off of the Bluetooth standard?
So I definitely think Bluetooth will kill a lot of the proprietary active RFID things. And case in point is really active in 2012 to 2014. The majority of what we sold was our proprietary 915 megahertz active RFID system that we created not because we thought we were better than Bluetooth, but because at the time Bluetooth wasn't ready. We couldn't adopt it yet. So we did that stopgap. We learned a lot from it. And today we're just as happy to use Bluetooth because it means we don't have to build our own stuff. There are other companies that are specialized in driving the cost down, and we'll never have those economics. So it's great. We're able to shed a burden from ourselves. I don't think proprietary active RFID will go away anytime soon because there are edge cases and use cases where you would want to use different technologies. Bluetooth, certain limitations. You're in the 2.4 gigahertz band. If that doesn't work, you do the rock concert, the Olympics, right? That band is going to be super polluted because all of the consumer devices are using it. So if you want to do, control of blinky lights on people's wrists, or you want to track people accurately and you need to make that work, you're going to use a different band, which means you're not going to use Bluetooth, and you'll probably use something proprietary at that point, or other technologies. And I forgot to mention ultra wideband in the active RFID space. You have other, emerging technologies that are becoming more and more widespread and very interesting for those kinds of cases.
I would like to say no, but in fact, when you look at what BLE is and can do, I don't believe we're there yet. Bluetooth has been a pain in the backside for many people for a great many years. I have a fairly new Apple phone. I have a headset which would actually talk to my Apple phone, except that it forgets to pair sometimes. Why is that? That's Bluetooth. Why is it doing that? I don't know what version of Bluetooth the headset has got or whatever, but there's obviously something that's not quite there yet. So that's why I say I don't think it's going to take over. But then I look at it from the other side, And I say, well, okay, so these traditional active RFID solutions, they all need, I was actually about to say proprietary, and I don't quite mean it in that way, but they need readers that can read their particular systems, whether they're ISO standardized or whether they are proprietary, it doesn't matter. You still need a reader that can do it. Whereas a BLE system, my phone will interact with a BLE system. So as today, the vast majority of us have phones that have Bluetooth incorporated in them. I can see how using the phone to do things, to interact with BLE or whatever, is going to take over a lot of stuff. And just the fact that we have a much more ubiquitous reader system available is really important.
We're going to get out the crystal ball. Where do you see BLE heading into the future? What is its future?
So the question of Bluetooth Low Energy's future is it's a tricky one. There's to keep in mind, Bluetooth is a special interest group, which is there to serve as essentially a body to promote all the companies that are using Bluetooth. So it's a little bit more of a marketing-sided organization than it is necessarily like a technical one. It's one of the surprises I had, but working closely with Bluetooth over the years, that's what I've seen. So a lot of the direction of where Bluetooth goes is based on the member companies and what they're proposing and what new standards. The general vibe I've received from Bluetooth is trying to use the Bluetooth banner to reflect a certain amount of comfort and trust with the average everyday user and consumer. That seems to be one of the key mandates, so that if you buy connected lighting and you see Bluetooth on it, you feel that it's going to work. If your car says that it's Bluetooth connectivity, you think it is going to work. So Bluetooth is trying to cover a lot of different applications under one banner. So even just Bluetooth Classic versus Bluetooth Low Energy, most people don't know the difference between the two, right? And so we've seen Bluetooth in recent years take on mesh. So they're trying to go after, let's say, Zigbee and other aspects of the market that early on created mesh networks where it eased the deployment of having sensors covering a large area. So there's a lot of focus on that. I think then in the next little bit, I do have hope that the batteryless Bluetooth does take root. It'll probably take longer than we think, over a few years, but I think that will act almost as a gateway drug possibly to passive RFID, because it allows people to test that much more easily at a smaller scale. And long term, I think Bluetooth really will be the discoverability technology for people, places, and things. So if we do imagine a world with ubiquitous real-time location, of ubiquitous contextual awareness where computers understand what we're doing and can glean into what our intent is and what we want to do, that isn't just smart home on steroids, but we opt in, we participate and decide how we want to be discovered and really cross that threshold and get there collectively. Bluetooth will probably be the enabling technology for that. It's the best one for discoverability. Just right now, people haven't realized that because most solutions are fairly siloed. We haven't broken the silos to have a ubiquitous, I walk into a space and it doesn't matter what's in it. I'm on Bluetooth and I want people to know my name is Jeff. It should know my name is Jeff. We haven't broken that barrier, but that's what we focus a lot on and really active. That's been our what's been keeping us going long term and what keeps us very excited.
And so that's all we're going to cover in this episode. As always, this series has been brought to you by the Material Handling Education Foundation, AIM, and the AIDC 100. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the links in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we hope you will join us for the next episode.